Hello, my dear audience of Hoai Ca. After so many dark and gloomy days, there's finally a major turning point. Hung's evil mother, the one behind all the schemes that have caused Hoai Ca. So much pain has been caught. However, the question that sends chills down our spines is this truly the end of the evil deeds? Or is it just the beginning of an even darker secret waiting to be uncovered? Could there still be a more sinister force lurking behind her and everything that has happened so far? Just a chess game, with her playing the role of a pawn. Stay tuned until the very last moment, because the truth that's about to be revealed may shock all of us. In the small, gloomy house, the days of running away had left Mrs. Thuy exhausted both physically and mentally. Every night she tossed and turned, her deep-set eyes betraying the sleepless nights, her mind overwhelmed by the guilt that she could not erase. She knew she couldn't keep hiding in the shadows forever. The more she ran, the further she drifted from her son. The fear of being caught no longer weighed as heavily as the fear that one day, when they met again, her son's eyes would be filled with nothing but hatred. That thought cut into her heart like a knife, forcing her to face the truth. During those days, Tuan, a familiar face, would often visit and comfort her. He advised her that running away was never the answer. Only surrendering could bring peace. His sincere words made Mrs. Thuy reflect deeply. She realized that while the law was strict, it also offered mercy to those who repented. Her wrongdoing, though serious, hadn't caused anyone harm. If she found the courage to admit her mistakes, the sentence might be lighter, and it would be her chance to start over. A flicker of hope began to spark within her. She dreamed of a day when she could hold her head high in front of her son, no longer ashamed or regretful. She believed that if one acknowledged their mistakes and had the strength to rise from their falls, there was always a way back, not just to society, but more importantly back to her family. On the day Tuan visited, Mrs. Thuy could no longer hide her feelings. She shared all her inner turmoil, the restless nights, and the constant guilt. Tuan listened patiently, then gently explained that if she voluntarily turned herself in, she would definitely receive some leniency. His advice gave her the strength she needed. After months of confusion, Mrs. Thuy finally found her resolve. She no longer saw the police station as a prison sentence, but as a liberation. A way to free herself from the long years of running from the nightmares and from the burden of guilt. More importantly, she wanted the chance to return as someone cleansed, someone brave enough to face her son. Once her decision was made, Mrs. Thuy felt lighter than she had in a long time. She knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but at least it was clear. She was no longer lost in the dark night of guilt. She had chosen the path of truth and justice. Together with Tuan, she quietly left the small house and began her slow, steady walk to the police station. Each step was deliberate, filled with remorse, but also a fragile hope that she still had a chance to start over. It was a short journey, but in the heart of this mother, it felt as long as an entire lifetime. With every door that closed behind her, she felt she was leaving her dark past behind forever. Out there, the road to the police station was no longer a symbol of fear, but the only door leading to peace. The atmosphere in the police station's duty room that afternoon was quiet. Papers were piled up on the desk, reflecting the usual busy routine. When Tuan helped Mrs. Thuy into the room, Both officers immediately stopped what they were doing, their eyes turning toward the woman, who looked worn out. Her face hardened from days of running. With their experience, the officers quickly recognized Mrs. Tui as the one who had been reported, and whose photo had been sent from another unit. In their minds, mixed with surprise, there was also a sense of relief. The suspect hadn't been brought in through force, but had voluntarily turned herself in. This showed sincerity and opened the possibility for leniency under the law. They understood that despite their busy work and the pressure, seeing someone who had committed a crime choose to face the law willingly was always a positive sign, reducing the chances of unfortunate outcomes. Tuan sat beside her, his calm gaze hiding the tension in his heart. He knew that Mrs. Tui's decision wasn't easy. Over the past days, he had encouraged and supported her, and now seeing her sitting there facing the officers, he felt a mix of worry and pride. For him, bringing Mrs. Tui in wasn't just a responsibility, it was a humane gesture, helping a lost mother find a chance to turn her life around. As for Mrs. Tui, from the moment she stepped through the gates of the police station, her heart raced. Memories of her mistakes and wrong decisions flashed through her mind. But when she saw the officers listening to her, she felt a sudden sense of relief. She realized she no longer had to carry this dark secret alone. Although she knew there would be a sentence ahead and hard times in the correctional facility, at least this was a clear and transparent path. The officers took notes, asked questions, and guided Mrs. Tui through the process of giving her personal details. There was no harshness in their eyes, just a seriousness mixed with empathy. They understood that the law was strict, but it also needed to be educational and forgiving. A woman of her age voluntarily turning herself in would surely be treated with some leniency. During this time, Tuan thought about the future. He hoped that with the law's mercy, Mrs. Tui would face only a short sentence, enough to serve as a lesson, but not enough to strip away her chance to rebuild. He wished that when she walked out of prison, she could face her son without shame, and that her past would only remain as a lesson learned. For Mrs. Tui, as she signed the documents, she felt her hand trembling. But in her eyes, there was a spark, the spark of late courage. She knew this was the first step toward atoning for her mistakes, the first step so that her son could look at her differently, no longer with hatred. When the officers finished the initial paperwork and informed her that the case would be sent to higher authorities, the tension in the room eased. They reminded her to cooperate during the investigation, reassuring her that her crime wasn't as serious as it might have seemed. Those words were like a comforting balm for Mrs. Tui. She nodded quietly, thanking them with a lump in her throat. Tuan stood up, greeted the officers, then turned back to look at Mrs. Tui. In his eyes was a silent promise he would continue to stand by her, supporting her, as she faced the days ahead. As Mrs. Tui watched Tuan leave the police station, she felt a mix of worry and trust, knowing that she had made the right choice. What keeps the audience on the edge of their seats is this. When the truth is revealed, how will Hoai Ca react? Will she finally breathe a sigh of relief, knowing the darkness has lifted? Or will she fear that the tragedies aren't over yet? And how will Hùng, her son, feel when he learns that his own mother was involved in the plot to harm them? Will he have the courage to forgive? Or will this shock tear apart the love between him and Hoai Ca? Forgiveness is not just about Hùng and his mother Batui, but it's also a choice that will shape their future. In the long nights of reflection, Hùng will certainly face a tough dilemma. His mother was wrong, but she's still his mother. Between the duty of a son and the love he holds for Hoai Ca, which path will he choose? The story may seem to be coming to a close, but it opens up so many bigger questions. Will Hoai Ca have the compassion to let go of the past and move forward? With Hùng, will Hùng find the strength to forgive his mother? And more importantly, after Batui turns herself in, will she truly change? Or is there still some hidden force pulling the strings behind the scenes? Stay tuned for the next video to discover all these surprising twists.
Biết điều đó, cô cảm nhận thấy điều đó, cô tưởng tượng đôi bàn tay nhỏ bé của cô Nhi nắm chặt cửa ra vào, đôi mắt mở to vì sợ hãi. Cô thấy Hùng đang đi từ từ lại xung quanh đường đất, dòng suối hát lớn tên cô và từ chối nổi tiếng, từ chối tin rằng cô sẽ được ra đi, họ sẽ không bao giờ từ bỏ cô. Cô gần như có thể nghe thấy họ cầu nguyện: Chúa ơi, xin hãy giữ cô ấy an toàn, xin hãy đưa cô ấy trở lại. Cô cắn môi dưới, nắm lấy ít bùn và máu khô, rồi chân cô run rẩy, tiếc nuối. Cô vẫn tiếp tục bước đi, giữa cây vươn ra để làm cô vấp ngã. Cành cây cào trước mặt cô như thể chúng tôi rừng rậm, rồi bóng níu cô lại. Nhưng cô vẫn tiến về phía trước,